You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world.
Welcome to the Sweet Spot Podcast. My name is Lynn, your host, and Ken's my co-host. Ken, what's going on?
Oh, Lynn, it is going. I am looking forward to discussing 1962 in this episode of the Sweet Spot Podcast.
This is episode 333.
333? Mm-hmm. That's amazing. 333.
That's right.
That's gotta be, you know what? We should give away something to every 333 millionth listener.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we get there, we will.
Okay.
Ken and I are both former Disneyland Custodial cast members, and we host the #1 Disneyland podcast, hosted by two former Disneyland Custodial cast members.
#1.
We're also authors of the book series Cleaning the Kingdom. We have 2 books. You can get them both on our website, signed by both of us. You can buy them individually or together. And you can go to our website, thesweetspot.com, or you can get them on Amazon, but they are not signed. You can also get the digital copies like Kindle on wherever Kindle books are found. The audiobook is available. The first book is available wherever audiobooks are found. The second book will be out sometime this summer.
And really, you should get, if you haven't purchased these books, then if you like this podcast, you're going to love these books. So go ahead and get them. And we've had a couple of really great recent reviews on the first book. I haven't checked the second book lately, but on the first book, we got some really, really great recent reviews on Amazon. So,
yeah. Let's see. Also, we have a Patreon where if you want to help be a part of the show and help contribute to our expenses, because they keep going up. Our website thing just went up again. So everything is going up, as everyone knows, and we can always use the help. And you can do that and get some small rewards in exchange by going to Patreon and searching The Sweet Spot, or going to our website, thesweetspot.com. And what you get is you can join in our current events in the chat, and I'll kind of include your comments with our discussion of the current events once a month, and we do that live as we're recording it. We're doing, on the next episode, we will actually be doing that. So if you want to get signed up, if you want to do that pretty soon here. Also, you get 1 bonus episode per month that we record, Ken and I, and we put it out, and it's always fun. We always have a really good time recording those, so a little more casual, so you get... Yeah, it's good. So join the Patreon if you'd like. Like I said, go to Patreon, or if you don't want to, contribute once a month, or you don't care about the rewards, but you just want to help a little bit, you can give $1 or $2 or $5 or whatever you want. Just by going to our website, there's a donation button there, and you can do that. Speaking of that, we have someone that did that, and we wanted to thank them. His name is, and I'll probably butcher his last name, I always do, George Lowin. So
thank you, George.
Yes, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. And then we have a new Patreon, and Sean Van Ostrand. Hey,
thank you.
Yes, thank you, Sean. We really appreciate it, and hope that you will join us on our next current events recording. We're going to do that, I think, next week sometime. I'll send it out on the Patreon. You should get a notification through that. Let's see. Did we get everything? Nope. Also, we're going to be at the Disneyana Show and Sale on May 15th. And that's in the city of Orange. I think it's at a hotel across from the Orange Block or whatever they call that now over there.
The Block in Orange?
Block, yeah. And we have there's a information on our website. Go to sweetspot.com, and at the top you'll see the banner Disneyana. Click on that. It has all the information. I think it's only like $5 or $10 to get in. And it goes from like 9:30 to 5 p.m. It's only on Sunday, the 15th of May. And Ken and I will both be there. We'll be signing our books. And if you already have our book but it's not signed, you can bring it down. We're going to have buttons for our listeners, and it should be a good time. I know there's going to be some other interesting, fun stuff to see there, too.
Yeah, if you've been to these, then you know how fun they are. If you haven't been, you really, really should come check it out. It's if you have any interest in Disneyland and memorabilia, or just general Disney memorabilia, this is the place to be.
Right, so. For sure. Also wanted to mention that because I'm going to be down there that weekend, I will be in the parks that Friday night, all day Saturday. So if you're going to be in the parks Saturday the 14th, follow me on Twitter. It's just the Sweep Spot. And I'm going to be posting stuff on there. And if you want to meet up, we can, and say hi. Maybe we can get a little group together and ride an attraction or something. But it'd be fun just to say hi to you guys. So follow me on Instagram, the Sweep Spot. And or also Twitter, Lynn Sweep Spot, I believe. All right. Wow, that's a lot of stuff, right? So.
Well, yeah. And did we mention who's on the show tonight?
No, there's so much to talk about. We have one of our fan favorite guests on the show, backed by popular demand. That is Jim Korkis.
All right.
As they probably already saw in the title of the podcast, right? But
probably, but we should mention it anyway.
Right. So. Jim is an awesome guy, great author. So, anyways, we're looking forward to talking with him. I know you're gonna like it, and we always do. But before we do that, we're gonna get into the current events. Now we're going to have the current events. Ken, do you have anything for us?
Oh, Lynn, there's really nothing to talk about. No, nothing's going on.
Okay.
Just one thing. Only one thing only. I have it on good authority. Now, the news hasn't broken on this yet, but I have it on good authority that Disney is going to form the Sandy Creek Improvement District in Anaheim. No, just kidding. Never mind, folks. Never mind. Okay. Hey, the Orange County Register reports that Disneyland to give Tarzan's Treehouse a new theme. Mainly what they're going to do is they're going to call it Plant Domicile because that's more inclusive than Treehouse. But okay, so but as Brady McDonald reported, he said Disneyland will reimagine Tarzan's Treehouse in Adventureland. You were talking about this, Lynn, about how it was not it was down for refurb, and it wasn't coming. It was just kind of weird, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they say it'll with a new theme and backstory, according to Disneyland officials. The treehouse experience isn't going away, but the Tarzan theme won't return when the attraction reopens. The walkthrough attraction's new theme, backstory, and reopening date have not yet been announced. Well, again, I have it on good authority. Don't tell anybody, but what's going to happen is it's going to be sponsored by a genealogy service, and it's going to be your family tree. Never mind. Okay. Mice Chat reports one possible overlay for Tarzan's Treehouse could be an attraction themed to Disney's Encanto animated film. In the movie, young Antonio Madrigal has a magical rainforest bedroom where he can communicate with animals. So, yeah.
Maybe they won't turn it into anything. Maybe it'll just be a tree,
It'll just be a tree. Well, here's the important thing, okay? And I know we've talked about this before. People say they should have never changed it from the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. The important thing is the tree was preserved, because there's a good chance if it wasn't turned into Tarzan's Treehouse, it might have been removed entirely. So it's here, and they can do with it what they want. We'll see what they do with it. Maybe there's something in the new Indiana Jones film that will involve a treehouse. But
maybe
anyway, the Disneyland attraction first opened in 1962, what we'll be discussing this year later in the podcast, as Swiss Family Treehouse. Just a few years after Disney released the Swiss Family Robinson movie in 1960. The Swiss Family theme was swapped for a Tarzan backstory in 1999, the same year the Disney animated movie debuted. Tarzan's Treehouse features several Easter eggs that pay homage to the attraction's original Swiss Family backstory. Well, they better get, eggs don't last that long, or they better not, they're probably pretty rotten by now. Oh, wait a second. No, okay.
Yeah.
Little things that pay homage, I think. Okay. Laughing Place covers that story. We have some info on what is coming to Downtown Disney. Okay?
Okay.
Yes. McDonald's. No, not McDonald's. Well, maybe, but that's not been announced. Din Tai Fung coming to Downtown Disney along with several restaurant renovations. And again, this is a Bertie McDonald story in the Orange County Register. But of course, we will have links to all of these stories in our show notes, our current events show notes section of thesweepspot.com. So you can go there and click through to read the entire thing if you so dare. The internationally acclaimed Soup Dumplings chain is headed to Downtown Disney as part of a major renovation that will see updates to the decor and menus at Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen, Catal, and Uva Bar. Disneyland Resort President Ken Potrock announced the changes coming to Downtown Disney during a State of the Disneyland Resort presentation on Wednesday, April 27th at the Hyperion Theater in DCA. Have you seen... Well, let me get down further to here. It says,
okay.
Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen will get an interior and exterior renovation along with a new menu as part of the Downtown Disney renovation. Have you seen the renderings for the Ralph Brennan's Jazz Kitchen?
I did. I don't understand. I know they're trying to make it kind of match the, I don't know, that kind of, what do they call that? Mid-century or whatever.
Mid-century modern or whatever.
Yeah. I know they're trying to make it look like that. I don't see a problem with what it looks like now, but
decisions were made. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Decisions were made. Okay, Catal will be transformed into an upscale gourmet Mexican restaurant with a culinary concept created by Michelin star chef Carlos Gayton, who owns Chicago's Zuko restaurant. The adjacent Uva Bar will also get a new high-end Mexican-inspired small plate menu and bar transformation that puts an emphasis on tequila-based cocktails. Okay. Earl of Sandwich will open a new pop-up shop as part of the downtown Disney renovation.
Well, what's going to happen with... Because Tortilla Joe's is right across the way. Do you think that's going to stay?
That's a good question.
You know? There are going to be 2 Mexican restaurants. I know Mexican food is very popular, but... interesting that they chose that.
Maybe they'll have nightly battles. I mean, you know.
Yeah, maybe it's so popular they needed a second one. So
there you go.
All right. Well, you mentioned the Earl Sandwich, a pop-up. That's just something temporary, right? Just a pop-up.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yep.
Until they get a permanent spot, hopefully.
I wish they had a Compass Books coming up.
Oh man, I don't know, Ken. Bookstores are on their way out.
No! Get off my lawn. If you're going to talk that way, you better get off my lawn
I know.
and give me my horse back. I need it for transportation.
Yeah.
Okay. Disneyland plans Pixar hotel makeover in the worst kept secret Pixar hotel makeover of Paradise Pier Hotel. That's, again, a Brady McDonald story, and he says Disneyland will sprinkle a healthy dose of Pixar pixie dust on the aging Paradise Pier Hotel as part of a multi-million-dollar renovation that will include a new back entrance to DCA for hotel guests. So the new DCA back entrance is expected to stretch from Paradise Gardens in DCA to Disney's Grand Californian Hotel vehicle entrance via a backstage passageway. The Paradise Pier Hotel will not close during the Pixar makeover, with portions of the hotel renovated on a rotating basis. The new Pixar-themed hotel does not have an official name yet, but for now, most Disneylanders will likely refer to it as the Pixar Hotel. No dates have been announced for the start or completion of work. Disneyland has already begun renovation of the Paradise Pier Hotel pool that will get a new Pixar theme. Laughing Place covered that, and as they point out, the hotel originally opened in 1984 as a non-Disney hotel, which of course was called the Emerald. It was called the Emerald back then, before being purchased by Disney in 1995 and renamed the Disneyland Pacific Hotel. At first it was the Emerald, then it was the Pan Pacific, and then Disney got a hold of it and named it Disneyland Pacific Hotel. So okay. Speaking of hotels, Laughing Place reports that new concept art released for newly named the Villas at am I pronouncing that right? The Villas?
Villas, yeah.
Pancho Villa, the Villas. Okay, at Disneyland Hotel. Okay, the new tower will be known as the Villas at Disneyland Hotel and is projected to open at some point in 2023. That is until COVID 2022 takes over. No, just kidding. The original concept art for the new tower was revealed way back in January of 2020, and construction has been in full swing since 2021, with vertical construction beginning a month ago. The new 12-story tower is being built on approximately 2 acres in an existing corner of the Disneyland Hotel, once the site of the Fantasy Waters Fountain Show. The Disney Vacation Club Tower will add 350 Vacation Club rooms to the existing 71 DVC rooms at Disney's Grand Californian Resort and Spa, increasing the Disney Vacation Club's presence at the Disneyland Resort by nearly 600%. And I know you were waiting for that, Lynn, because with your membership in the DVC, you've been waiting for available rooms here, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I know you don't like to talk about that membership much, but there you go. Sorry about that. The new hotel has been designated to, pardon me. I was getting me all choked up.
Yeah.
Has been designed to complement the existing Disneyland hotels, Frontier, Adventure, and Fantasy Towers. What do you think?
Sounds good. I don't know. I mean, I probably...
Are you looking forward to staying in those rooms, Lynn? I mean, come on.
I really am. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, so this is going over there in the site where you mentioned, the corner there. All right.
Yep. The official Disney Parks blog did have a story recapping some of these things. So you can go get the official word from them, as they point out on a story dated Thursday, April 28th. As they point out, yesterday, Disneyland Resort President Ken Potrock met with community leaders about upcoming plans for magical new experiences coming to the Disneyland Resort. And we want, magical new experiences. I mean, I wonder if you'd ever update them on, lackluster new experiences coming to the Disneyland Resort. No, he's only going to update them on the magical ones. And we wanted to bring you in on the fun, says this article. Here's a peek behind the curtain of what's on the horizon for guests, starting with some news from the hotels of the Disneyland Resort. So if you want to see what they have to say, go click through that. I always like the legalese at the end of their updates, in the official Disney Parks blog. Well, here's something I know you've been waiting for. The Orange County Register reports Disneyland launches new Grad Night Reunion After Hours Party.
Yay.
The new Disneyland After Dark Grad Night Reunion events will be held on June 23rd, 28th, and 30, but not June 31st, at Disney California Adventure. Tickets go on sale no earlier than noon on Thursday, April 28th. Obviously, that's already happened, so, it's probably sold out and you're out of luck. No, just kidding. Well, it might be sold out. I don't know. Check it out, folks. Yeah. The Grad Night Reunion events promise nostalgic fun with a pep rally cavalcade, photo opportunities with characters in cap and gown, dancing to music from the past 6 decades, cafeteria-inspired food and attractions with shorter wait times.
Cafeteria-inspired food. I love it.
Yes, that's got to be great. Pizza bread,
This does not sound like it'll be one of their most popular events. Maybe it will be, but
maybe. They point out Disneyland had already doubled the number of limited time after hours events in 2022, with Disneyland After Dark late night parties tied to Valentine's Day, Disney Villains, Star Wars, and Arbor Day. I might have added that last one. Mm-hmm. But you don't need to be an action. They're not going to make sure that you actually attended Grad Night there. They don't say like, oh, you can't buy a ticket unless you actually attended Grad Night here in the past. They don't do that. So maybe you want to go because you didn't go to Grad Night there. Mm-hmm. Maybe you say, like me, you didn't have your Grad Night at Disneyland, so you want to, you're like, I want to do Grad Night at Disneyland, and now that I'm, 50 years old and I've got the money to do it, I'm going to do it. And the Disney Parks official blog has that story, as they word it, from good times to even better dance moves. This separately ticketed Disneyland After Dark event gives you after-hours access to Disney California Adventure after the park closes to day guests, with the opportunity to experience special offerings not typically available during the day. Enjoy delicious cafeteria-inspired dishes, special character experiences, entertainment, photo opportunities, and some favorite attractions with shorter wait times for 4 hours of fun. Also included with your ticket, you'll have 3 additional hours pre-party to mix in at DCA. In addition to these special offerings, you'll receive a commemorative credential and guide, as well as unlimited downloads of Disney PhotoPass digital photos you take during the party. I'm still, the name Disneyland After Dark still throws me for a loop. Yeah. It's like After Dark shouldn't, that came to mean something else in pop culture, and pairing it with Disneyland kind of It's like a kind of, it doesn't really pair with Disney. But anyway,
Yeah.
that's me. Maybe they're reclaiming it. They're reclaiming the phrase. Disneyland gets its glow back with return of electrical parade and forever fireworks. So Brady McDonald did a review, and he was thumbs up on this. He said they hosted a media preview for those things on Wednesday, April 20th, and that meant Disneyland visitors got a surprise performance of the two nighttime spectaculars before they officially debuted alongside the World of Color. Okay. And so those officially came back on April 22nd. Fantasmic returns on May 28th. Plenty of people were in on the back-to-back nighttime spectacular surprise, as Main Street USA was lined with parade goers 5 deep, who responded with hoots and hollers as the spring breakers waited for the lights to dim on Disneyland's primary thoroughfare. Passageways were opened behind the Main Street shops to handle overflow traffic, rerouted by the clog of visitors lining the parade route. Yes, the parade's mushroom floats are still built out of little more than plywood and 2x4s painted with black primer. The simplicity of the parade makes you believe you could build it in your backyard, but the enormous scale of the spectacle makes you realize only Disneyland could and would pull off such an audacious performance.
Yeah.
So the new electrical parade finale float is 2-sided, meaning you'll have to see the parade twice to catch the entire experience. To put the size of the finale in perspective, the behemoth float is nearly as long as the Incredicoaster is tall. If you're prove it, tip it over.
Wow.
if you're on the Aladdin and Jasmine side of the final float, you'll see the backside of Maribel and Antonio, as well as the backs of Merida, Tiana, Mulan, and Mowgli. Elsa and Anna face each other hand in hand, allowing parade goers to easily see them from either side of the route. It's possible to see both sides of the Togetherness float in one evening if you stand on the same side of the parade route for the 8:45 and 10:30 p.m. showings, since the parade heads in opposite directions for each performance. Otherwise, you'll have to make a return trip to Disneyland to catch the alternate version of the final float, which is exactly what Disney is hoping you'll do. That's what he said, not me. But so yeah. The Main Street Electrical Parade has a long history of triumphant returns. After officially glowing away forever in 1996, the parade came back in 2001 to DCA in an effort to boost the new park's attendance, and it's stuck around for another decade. The beloved parade made briefer return engagements at Disneyland in 2017 and 2019. The limited-time 2022 reincarnation marks the 5th debut of the parade at the Anaheim Theme Park Resort. And the fireworks show from Disneyland's 60th anniversary celebration is just as you remember it, filled with Mickey-shaped pyrotechnics, video projections on Main Street USA building facades, Tinkerbell soaring over the castle, and faux snow during Let It Go from Frozen. So, the nighttime is coming back alive, Lynn.
Yeah. Sounds good.
And the official Disney Parks blog also has coverage of that, which is important if you don't have a subscription to the Register. And the Register did their monthly Disneyland crime report. This time it's for March. And as they always buffer it with language talking about how safe the resort is statistically. And, these are relatively few. Considering the millions of people coming through, there's really not that many crimes that are reported. They point out that March 4th, there was an assault and battery. Saturday, March 5th, there was an assault and battery. Monday, March 7th, grand theft. Grand theft is anything over like $950, so it could have been a couple churros, as we've said before. But, it makes me think of a car, like someone broken. That's, makes me think someone might have stolen a car out of a, and another grand theft on March 16th. And yeah, so
On and on. Yeah.
Considering how many millions of people pour through Disneyland, it's really a low crime rate. Laughing Place reports that they kind of have a recap of the latest round of announcements, and they kind of point out what that means. Like Ben Breitbart has a piece called with the latest round of announcements and developments, the Disneyland Resort continues its return to normalcy. And as he says, this Saturday will mark the 1-year anniversary since Disneyland reopened after being closed for 412 days.
Wow.
To celebrate how far they've come. Disneyland Resort President Ken Potrock held a State of the Resort presentation for community leaders last night. Ahead of that, he held a media briefing to preview his remarks. Blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. Okay, a year in, it is clear that the Disneyland Resort believes they are at a pivot point in their comeback. With the recent return of nighttime spectaculars and up-close character interactions, part of what has been missing from Disneyland experience has been restored, but Disneyland still faces challenges that don't have a quick switch like an electrical parade float. Mm-hmm. And as he points out, currently the Disneyland Resort has about 30,000 cast members working. About 1/3 of the current cast base are new to the Disneyland Resort.
Wow.
That's amazing. Other people, the rest of them, so about 1/3 of people retired or left or passed away or somehow didn't return, when it reopened. And of course, MiceChat.com has a bunch of their Disneyland updates. There's Dateline Disneyland Tarzan's Treehouse out, characters return, crowds surge, and that was by Andy Castro on April 18th. And he says that big crowds finally arrived at Disneyland. The crush of big crowds comes as Disneyland prepares to bring back 4 major nighttime spectaculars, including the 50th anniversary run of the electrical parade. The big news, however, is some major springtime gardening underway in Disneyland. Chippendale's Treehouse has been chopped down as part of Toontown's major reimagining project, while over in Adventureland, Tarzan's Treehouse is getting pruned as well as that attraction prepares for some major changes, including ousting its title character, Tarzan. Meanwhile, New Orleans Square's gardens and waterfront continue major reimagining. Have you seen that, Lynn, the changes to New Orleans Square?
I've seen photos, yeah.
Yeah. That's what, yeah.
Pretty opened up now.
Yeah, I mean, that area has been worked on so many times over the years.
Yeah, I'd like to see it in person to get a better perspective of the way it feels, but
yeah. Dusty Sage had an April 25th update called Disneyland Update Electric Entertainment, Magic Key Blues, and Rumors 2. And so he again mentions the nighttime shows returning. There are some questions about the Magic Key program. Mm-hmm. So if you want to click through and read about that. And so as he points out, we have a lot to show you and talk about today. You'll want to read all the way through to the bottom as we discuss rumors and float some new ones. Mm-hmm. So they always have a lot of really high quality pictures in those updates.
Oh yeah.
And Dusty Sage had an update again on April 28th called Disneyland Updates, New Downtown Disney Restaurants, Pixar Hotel, and more. Because, of course, the news broke about the hotels in downtown Disney. So you can get his take on all that by clicking through. And that is pretty much what's happening. Do you have renovation news for us?
Yeah, before we get to that, I wanted to mention that you were talking about it had been a year since the parks had reopened. It just made me think about what things are still not reopened. Not necessarily the attractions, but just things in general. Like now we have most of the nighttime shows back. We're still waiting on Fantasmic. I think it has another month before it returns, but probably some entertainment. When I was there, I don't know if it's returned lately, but I didn't see very much music going on in New Orleans Square, where in the past it seemed like There, I remember at times there would be two groups playing at the same time, practically. One on each end or something like that,
Yeah.
overlapping. But so it just kind of made me think about what was, because I have a client I was working with for, I worked for Concierge, and they were asking about the Bibbidi Boppity Boutique, and that's not yet reopened yet, and I didn't know about, if it was or it wasn't. Because I personally don't have a reason to go there, but or any kids that would go there.
Well, Princess Fantasy Fair has recently reopened. So.
That has, yeah, and then characters now, you can hug them and get their autographs now. That's another step, that's masks are no longer required like on the monorail, where they were just a week or two ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, it seems like things are slowly getting back to, pre-COVID era. So I was just thinking about that when you had mentioned it. As far as refurbs go, I had my little list here. So of course, Pirates is down and they don't have a return date. There's rumors it'd be early July. Blue Bayou, along with that, it's closed. I think those will both reopen at the same time when it does happen. The subs, I'm kind of wondering what's going on. I know that they were going to do a small refurb, and then it got approved to do a bigger one as far as painting and things, upgrading. So I don't know if it's taken a little longer than I expected, it seems like. And there's no return, they don't have a date. The Treehouse, we spoke of that. There's no return date or any idea yet. They haven't put it out there of what it's going to be. Animation Academy will be down, and return is down now, I believe, and returning the 27th of May. The Golden Zephyr is going to be down May 9th to the 20th. So, and then, so a lot of stuff over at DCA. Then Mickey's Phil Magic is down May 16th to the 27th. So that's all I have for those.
All right. Well, are you able to track all that, folks? I mean, do you understand all the stuff that's going on? There's a lot of stuff that's changing, reopening, stuff coming on board. There's still some things that have not come back, but are look to be on their way. But there are people who do keep track of these things, and it's our good friends at Concierge, of which Lynn is now one. So what you want to do is you want to plan your next getaway Disney vacation by contacting Concierge. One way you can do that is go to concierge.com. Concierge is our magical vacation planning partners. They are keeping track of all the stuff that's going on, and as Lynn can explain, they can get you reservations. What they do is not going to add any cost to your trip, so it just seems like a no-brainer to me. You take away a lot of the stress and uncertainty by telling them to help you go to Walt Disney World or Disneyland or Disney's Aulani in Hawaii, or go on a Disney cruise or Adventures by Disney. So contact Concierge at concierge.com. Book a vacation package with them. And by package, I mean maybe a hotel stay and theme park tickets, maybe a week on the Disney cruise, things like that. A package with them, and tell them that the Sweep Spot sent you, and you'll get a special gift when you book with them. But Concierge knows what they're doing. They focus on Disney. It doesn't add any cost to you. So to me, it just makes all the sense in the world to plan your next Disney getaway vacation by contacting Concierge.
That's right. You can contact Concierge. You can also contact me or one of the other great travel specialists over there. So All right. Well, thanks a lot, Ken. I really appreciate it.
Hello everyone, this is Eric Johnson with Concy Ears, and welcome to the D180. While Ken and Lynn cover all things Disneyland, in the D180 we take a spin around the rest of the Disney universe, and we do it in 180 seconds. Let's jump right in. We begin our adventure in the open seas, because we are all in on cruises right now. Disney Cruises this September and October will return to hosting their Halloween on the High Seas nights this year. Think the Halloween parties in the parks, but without all the crowds. Also, you're on a boat. As usual, there will be themed decorations and plenty of candy to go around. Your favorite Disney characters will be in costumes, but for the first time, we will see Minnie Mouse, Daisy Duck, and Clarabelle Cow as the Sanderson sisters from Hocus Pocus. I didn't need to tell you which movie they're from, you totally got that reference. After all, the sequel is coming to Disney Plus this fall. These Halloween nights feature costume parties for guests and even costume contests for adults. Every night, Halloween movies play on the deck. Special food and drink items pop up all around the ships just like in the parks. In the grand hall of each ship, enjoy a take on a Disneyland tradition. The pumpkin tree is a Halloween on the High Seas staple. This sculpture features lights and jack-o'-lanterns, much like Disneyland's Halloween tree. The Halloween tree in Disneyland is, of course, that reference to Ray Bradbury's novel of the same name. In 2007, on the 35th anniversary of his novel, Ray was invited to dedicate the now annual tribute that stands outside the Golden Horseshoe Saloon. The novel follows children looking for a lost friend who end up learning about the history of Halloween. The pumpkin trees on Disney cruise ships might not be so proactive in teaching kids about Halloween, so you might want to bring along a copy of Ray's book just in case. I'll save the Paul Harvey reference this week. Disney cruises are going strong, but there are still some spots open in 2022. Sail to the Bahamas and the Caribbean from San Juan, Puerto Rico, Galveston, Texas, and New York. Visit New Brunswick and Halifax, Canada from the New York port. Or head to the Baja Peninsula from San Diego. There are plenty of options for those looking to cruise through the rest of 2022. Those looking further ahead will be excited by the new sailings in 2023. The Disney Dream will spend summer days touring the Mediterranean and the fall exploring the coastline from Spain to Skjold, Norway. The Disney Wonder brings its guests from Western Canada to Alaska next summer. There are plenty of excursions to the Bahamas and the Caribbean on the Disney Fantasy, Disney Dream, and the still pretty new Disney Wish. These ships are your conveyance to Disney's private island in Castaway Cay. All of these 2023 itineraries open up on May 9th, so get in touch with your favorite Concy Ear ASAP. There's so much to see at sea that I think it's all I'll talk about this week. If you're ready to take a cruise, it sure looks like Disney is ready to give you options. And that's 180 seconds. I hope you enjoyed our quick spin around the rest of the Disney universe. If you'd like to learn more about these Disney adventures or just have a few questions, please come on over. Visit the social media and websites of both the Sweep Spot and us, their official travel planners, Concy Ears. We look forward to planning something special for you and your family. I'm Eric Johnson, and this has been your D180.
We're going to welcome back one of our favorite guests we have on our show, and he is a Disney author and a Disney historian, and he's a good friend of ours, is Jim Korkis. Welcome back, Jim.
Well, thank you for having me, and this is one of my favorite podcasts as well. As I've told both of you repeatedly, I'm so excited that there's a place where you can share this information about classic Disneyland, and that you have an audience that's so interested in hearing about it and hearing about these little nooks and crannies. And I'm certainly very excited tonight, because we're going to be covering 1962, and the 60s is when I started to go to Disneyland. And I remember being taken by my mom and dad, and my dad, of course, was a member of the Magic Kingdom Club. There are some people listening who may know what that is, but that was a special promotion for businesses, and also you could get a special admission price, and you could get some extra tickets in your Magic Kingdom Club booklet, and my two brothers. And so for me, when I think about original Disneyland, I think about Disneyland in the 60s. And so for me, Disneyland always had the Matterhorn and the submarine voyage. And I remember with my two brothers, Chris and Mike, what we would do is we would be bouncing in the back seat of the car, to the annoyance of my dad, to see which one of us could see the tip of the Matterhorn first. You know? My brother Mike used to joke that he had such bad eyesight, we had to literally take him into the park and lead him to the Matterhorn and put his hand on it so that he knew the Matterhorn was there.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, no, those, I don't think people realize how exciting it was to go to Disneyland in those days, because again, you were on the 5 freeway, and we were coming from Glendale, so it took a good hour, even with the freeway, and so it seemed like forever before you could get there. You're building up all of this anticipation. You're trying to look for road signs of what's going on, and of course, when you got into the park, you could enjoy it because it wasn't overly crowded. You didn't have to wait in line an hour and a half to buy a hot dog. You know, you stood in line to go on the rides like everybody else, and that got you all stirred up and excited as well. So thanks again for inviting me tonight, and inviting me during the 60s, going back to the days when things were just so much easier, and even though in those days I was longing to be older so I wouldn't have to go to school and I could drive and all of that, I never realized how good I really had it. And so this is going to be a nice little time travel trip for me.
Very good. Yeah, I know you always enjoy talking about 60s. Definitely wanted to have you for this one. Well, let's get right into it. There's a lot. As I was doing a little research myself and looking at that, wow, there's a lot to cover here. How exciting.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. During the years that Walt and Roy were running the park, there was always something, going on. And so much of it not recorded, when it comes to events and things. And it just jam-packed because, again, the deal was we want to give people, as much value as possible. So even if you thought that this was a little expensive, you got paid back tenfold.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to lead us off with a few facts here, just to kind of give us a perspective of what was going on then. The general, they had the general admission, and then they had the ticket books that you purchased. And, let me back it up real quick. So parking was 25 cents.
And Walt wanted it that way, so it only covered the cost of maintenance and the overhead, for the most part, of the people who were working the parking lot. He felt that's all you needed.
Well,
oh my gosh.
The general admission.
I don't know what parking is today. What, $50, $75, and then
30 or 40, 30.
And then an additional upcharge if you want that some type of premier parking, right? Everything now is an upcharge at Disneyland and Walt Disney World. So
I don't get me started.
So do you have to make reservations for parking now? No, I'm just kidding. Not yet.
Not yet. I think that's the correct answer. Not yet.
Yet. All right. So general admission, just to get in the park, you can walk around. It was $1.50.
Actually, it was $1.60.
60.
They had raised it.
Okay.
Yes, to cover the cost of the attractions that came in '59 all. This was one of the first big jumps. Originally it was $1, then it jumped up to $1.25, $1.50. This year it was up to $1.60 for adults, $1.20 for juniors, and 60 cents for children.
Now,
my gosh, that park must be just pulling it in, boy.
Yeah, again, that was the juniors was a category that disappeared.
Yeah.
And
Yes. Well, Walt felt that once you hit 12 years old and up to 18, you were in a different category. You were no longer a child, and you shouldn't be treated that way either. And I remember my parents one time debating whether because I was also tall for my age, whether I should lie about my age so I could get in for the lesser price. And what were ticket books going for? Do you have that information?
I just have two of them. I mean, there was a lot of other options. I thought I'd just get the top two. The Jumbo 15 was $4.75, and the Big 10
which was a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of them really bargains. You are saving money, and Walt was as clever as a fox, because with the ticket book, he spread people out throughout the park. It's not like today of oh my gosh, I've got to get, it's so expensive to get into Disneyland. I've got to do as much. I've got to ride the Millennium Falcon at least 10 times in a row to try and get back the value that I'm spending. Walt's idea is with and by the I still call them tickets, but if you take a look at the ticket book, they're called coupons, and they were to spread people out throughout the park. So now you had to make some decisions, and you might not normally have wanted to go into the Main Street Cinema, but by golly, you had that A ticket, and you had paid for it, so let's use the A ticket and go there, or go on the trolley or whatever. And so Walt spread people out throughout the park. He also helped introduce all of the attractions to people. What a wonderful idea, And again, we're getting to that point now where there are going to be competitors, and you're going to get something like Pacific Ocean POP, and they also used POP as the abbreviation for pay one price. So all you had to do was pay one price to get into the park and ride most of the attractions, not all of the attractions, because they also had some outside vendors who were running some attractions, and that got under Disney's skin. But in these days, hey, my golly, Disneyland is king, and even Knott's Berry Farm is introducing a ticket book for its ghost town.
Oh, right. Well, I have a couple other things. I have also, they did guided tours, and they were $5.
Because remember, Disneyland was something unusual. It was something different than any other amusement park. So sometimes people wanted to pay for the guided tour to sort of acclimate. What is this? Right. What's going on? Where are these things, and what should I be thinking about? And in the earliest days, it wasn't just women who were running tours. Oftentimes, it was men, although we're getting to the point now where it is only women in guest relations, because Walt felt that women would be less intimidating and perhaps more sensitive, to the guests. But yes, we're getting to that point where there's that transition where some of the earliest tour guides were men, but men that had a sense of comedy, almost like what you would find on the Jungle Cruise. And maybe that's another reason why he started to get rid of them. And remember, they didn't have, little audio devices and all that, so sometimes they had to use a megaphone. And the reason the tour guides, the female tour guides, got the writing crop in their hand was that it made it easier to point out things so the entire group could see. And also Walt felt, it's very rude to just point with one finger. But the other reason for the writing crop is to keep overeager young men at a writing crop distance if they approached her. So, and now we're going to get into the time in '65 where those who were in the tour group, would who were tour guides were going to, now be eligible to be ambassadors. What else have you got for us?
Also, the annual park attendance that year was 5.5 million.
That is absolutely correct. Amazing as that is,
Yeah. Wow.
For comparison, now it's over 15 million a year.
Just within the first hour, I think it's.
Yeah.
But that's it. Yeah, and that was operating with a cast of just a little over 3,000 cast members. And Walt was paying to the cast members. What was it? 13 million. 13 million a year was being spent on cast members.
Wow. Well, that's all I have for the extra stuff.
Well, do you want to get us started off with something that happened at Disneyland in 1962, and then I'll be like the rude house guest and jump in. I'll be like Cliff Clavin in Cheers. And by the way, over there.
Sure. I'm trying to think what I want to start with. There's so many different things here.
Well, just pick one. We'll try to get to as many of them as we can.
Well, this didn't open in '62, but Babes in Toyland exhibit was going on during this time.
Yes, and what was remarkable about that was the very first time that guests could come in, not just at Disneyland, but anywhere, could come in and see actual props from a movie.
Right.
Today we take those things for granted, and there's traveling exhibits and all of that. But again, Walt was doing that because he realized that Babes in Toyland was a dud.
Yeah.
So if he put that in there, people could see that, and that would encourage them, to go out. It was, I think it was a Christmas release that year, to go out and see it at Christmas. So you have the props, and those were in the Opera House there. And again, this was the first use of opening the opera house to guests, because before then, that was the wood mill where they were building things. They built the Chicken of the Sea pirate ship in there, you know. So yeah, big deal to these. So this is what the props on a movie set look like. Oh wow, cool.
Well, I just noticed something.
You want me to start with one?
Well, I was going to say I noticed something in my notes, but I'm sure you'll get to it. It's pretty irrelevant. It's kind of on everyone's mind today because of some news or rumor or whatever that came out a week or so ago about the treehouse. The Swiss family treehouse opened. Was it November '62?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, there's a wonderful story behind that. But yeah, Tarzan's getting kicked out.
Yeah.
You know, well, I guess there are people these days who are just not familiar with Tarzan, and I'm also wondering if Disney was also paying, you know, some sort of a licensing fee, you know, for this. Well, basically, the treehouse came about because there was nothing in Adventureland. There was only one attraction, the Jungle Cruise. That's it.
Right.
You could look around and there's wonderful landscaping, but you know that's it. There's nothing there. And so, in 1960, Disney released a live-action adventure film called Swiss Family Robinson. And it was based on the 1812 novel. And, of course, being Disney, you know, it made significant additions and changes to the story, you know, to make it more exciting and amusing. And something that some people don't realize is there was a silent movie version of Swiss Family Robinson, and Walt bought the rights to the entire film, so it would not be released. So it would be in competition with the Disney film. And in fact, he did that all the time. He bought the rights to the silent movie version of Peter Pan, and so for decades it was unavailable for anybody to see it. You know,
I had no idea that he did that. Wow.
Oh yeah. And it is now. You know, because after a certain point, it was like, you know, this is historically important. This is, you know, whatever. And so, you know, it had limited screenings at museums back in the, 80s? Because that's when I saw it at a Los Angeles museum, you know, one night only, you know, now it's on DVD. I don't know the status of the Swiss Family Robinson movie, but yes, Walt didn't want competition. And then the other reason, especially like in Peter Pan, is he took elements from that film to incorporate in his film. So that whole in Peter Pan, that whole flying pirate ship, that is from the silent movie. It does not exist in Barry's novel or in his play. I haven't seen the silent movie version of Swiss Family Robinson, so I don't know what got borrowed from there. And of course, the film was directed by a very well-known director by the name of Ken Anakin. And George Lucas loved the work of Ken Anakin, so he named a character Anakin Skywalker.
Oh, I was wondering.
I know all those connections there. So this was shot in the Caribbean, and it was also shot at the Pinewood Studios just outside of London, where a lot of great films were made. And basically the story is there's a Swiss family, and they're on their way to New Guinea, but the ship is attacked by pirates. And so they are shipwrecked, but they survive. Apparently, nobody else on the ship did, but they survived, and they're on this uninhabited island. and the father and his two sons salvage material from the ship, like furniture and supplies and a steering wheel and whatever, and then construct a tree house on the island because they have to be above where the wild animals are, and they also wanted a lookout in case the pirates ever come back, which they do in the movie, which is not a spoiler. And the treehouse was designed by a Disney animator, Wolfgang Reiterman, who later directed most of the Disney feature films, in the late 60s, early 70s, and with input from John Hench. So they found this actual tree, that had a spread of about 200 feet, and they built the treehouse, but they built it in sections so that they could go and they could film. But the downside was they could only film when the sun was up, right? So they did that, and then after the filming, the locals there begged Disney to let the treehouse remain. Disney took all the props and the interior furnishings and all that, and it became a very popular tourist attraction. So you could go there and you could actually visit the treehouse from the movie, but it was destroyed by Hurricane Flora. The tree still remains. The tree wasn't destroyed, but the tree house was, because again it was a set for a movie. It wasn't made to survive a lot of this. I think the movie has pretty much fallen into obscurity. Have either of you seen the live action Disney Swiss Family Robinson?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Okay,
it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while for me too, and again,
me three. It's been a while. So I was trying to remember when I know I've seen parts of it. So
and riding the animals, riding the ostrich, riding the zebra, which was actually a horse that was painted to look like a zebra, and good family film, good nice family film, and nice, solid family values. And so Walt said, I think kids would always love a tree house. In fact, he wanted to put a tree house on Tom Sawyer Island. And there were problems with that, not only because of money, but because sight lines if you got to the top of the tree house. And actually, the tree house was going to be the home of the Mickey Mouse Club, and episodes were going to be filmed from the tree house on Tom Sawyer Island. And the Imagineers, again, thought Walt was crazy, that building a tree house was a waste of time, it was a waste of space, it was a waste of money, because what guest would ever want to climb all the way up just to have to walk all the way back down? Right. And I can understand, their thinking. But of course, when the treehouse opened, adults outnumbered children 3-1 to get up there. And the funny thing is it took 68 steps to get to the top of the treehouse, and 69 to get back down. And I have no idea why that was, But yes, the concrete foundations and all that were installed in January of '62, and then November 18th at 2 p.m. they had the grand opening, and they had the actor John Mills, who played the father in the movie, and his daughter Haley Mills, who wasn't in the movie, but she was in a lot of Disney films and was hugely popular.
Right. Oh yeah.
And they're the ones that cut the ribbon and were the first ones supposedly to, go up and go through all of the different rooms that were there. The parents' bedroom and the boys' room and the kitchen and all of this, and that was pretty neat, and all these homemade things. The thing that stuck out in my mind in the 60s, because in those days, boy, I climbed right to the top and right down. Nowadays, I would give it a second thought. But in those days,
Yeah.
I was a little more agile. I was a little more limber. I had a little bit more romance in my heart. There was a river down below, and they had these bamboo tubes that would scoop up the water, and the chain would go right up to the top of the treehouse and dump it, and then the water would go through these tubes that would go through all of these different rooms, and then spill out down below back into the river. And I think Disney claimed something that it recycled something like 200 gallons an hour, you know, and it was like, whoa. And the funniest story I ever heard was that there was a visitor from Switzerland who went up to one of the attraction hosts and said, you know that Swiss people do not really live in trees. You know, we tend to forget that people took these things pretty literally back in those days. You know, and it was a very quaint. It was and again, as I said, there was nothing else in Adventureland, you know, except for the Jungle Cruise.
And that music.
Of course,
who could forget the music?
Song that kept playing was Buddy Baker's theme from the movie, which was the Swiss Polka.
Right.
And, yeah, which I was happy that they kept for Tarzan's Treehouse. and now we'll never be able to get that out of our minds. Thank you very much. You're
Yeah, thank you.
You're so sensitive to the to your listeners now. And I don't think I've read what the Swiss Family Treehouse is going to become.
They haven't announced it. There's rumors that there's going to be a Disney Plus show that's Swiss Family Treehouse, and it's possible they could take it back to that. Or some people are thinking is it Encanto? Is it called?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It could be neither of those. Maybe they won't reopen it at all.
Knowing Disney, it could become the Guardians of the Galaxy Treehouse. You know, so. But
I could make a lot of jokes, but I don't. People will just get angry at me. It could just, it could just be like I said. You know, we talked about this in the current events, and like, you know, I think it should just be an Arbor Day tribute. So there, you know.
That could actually a tribute to Walt's conservation initiatives. You know, that would work, but
it could be a miniature version of the Tree of Life from Animal Kingdom. You know,
that's true. But whatever decision Disney makes, it'll probably be wrong. Or it'll probably stir up an awful lot of controversy about. All sorts of things. And I think as part of the renovation, the addition they made to the Tarzan Treehouse, which was that stump and suspension bridge, is being taken down to widen the pathway there in Adventureland.
Yes.
Tony Baxter put it there so that it would obscure your view, because when you were standing there, you could see all the way down to the end of Adventureland. That didn't seem to make sense. I'm standing in the middle of Adventureland. I can see the end of it there, you know?
Yeah.
Well, que sera, sera. What will be, will be. And I got to go on it while it was still the Swiss Family Treehouse. So, nani to the rest of you.
They're gonna.
That's all I can.
I think they can turn it into 31 Royale, and they can charge you like $100,000 to spend the night there. I guess
Oh, and there would be people, down the block and out the park waiting to, get into that. Well, out here we have that Star Wars hotel, and it's like $6,000 for 2 days and 2 nights, and I'm thinking, I've got a lot of other things I could do with $6,000, but still, it's booked.
Yep.
There are people on a waiting list want to get into that, so more power to them. Well, one of the things that happened at Disneyland in '62 that never happened anywhere else in the Disneyland history is from June until September, Disneyland produced a Saturday-only television show at 7:30 p.m. That's Pacific Standard Time, titled "Meet Me at Disneyland," and it was, believe it or not, it was an attempt to drive up attendance during the summer weeknights, and the sponsors for the show were some of the lessees in the park, like Stouffer's and Fritos and Chicken of the Sea and Hills Brothers over that. And it was aired on a local Los Angeles channel, KTTV, which was Channel 11. And I grew up in the Los Angeles area, so I loved watching Channel 11 and Channel 9 and Channel 5, KTLA, Channel 13, KCOP, because oftentimes they would have half-hour or hour specials about Disneyland to generate, excitement in the local audience to go visit Disneyland. And I have a couple of those specials on VHS, which I guess I'd better get transferred over before, I'm 6 feet underground. But this was a show. I have never seen any copies of this show around, but I know not to give up hope that somebody somewhere might have them. The producer was Tommy Walker, and the master of ceremonies was Johnny Jacobs, who became a well-known announcer for many television shows. And again, half-hour show. They would introduce performers. They would interview guests at the park. Again, only during the summer. However, this show was important to musical history. And if it wasn't for this show, this musical group might never have come to national attention, even though this was a local show. They certainly had a lot of musical groups at Disneyland over the years, and in fact, 1962, this is the year where Frank Sinatra Jr. made his first public performance as a singer, and he made it at Disneyland with the Elliott brothers, the date nighters. And so you've got that. The Osmond brothers appeared on the show July 7th. Okay?
No.
Now,
Wow.
according to the producer, it was Andy Williams' brother Don who watched the Osmonds on that television show and convinced Andy Williams to use them on his weekly television show. However, that's why you can't always trust one man's opinion. Most biographies claim that it was Jay Williams, who is Andy's father, who saw the show and saw the boys and reminded him of how Andy and his brothers used to sing and brought them to Andy's attention. So that, They ended up on the Andy Williams Show and went to nationwide attention. Now, if you listen to the Osmond Brothers story of this, nobody knew Meet Me at Disneyland. If you use that in a story, nobody would get that. What is that? I don't know what that is. Okay? So in their version, they had driven out from Utah for an audition, and when they came out, the audition got canceled at the last minute, so the father took them all to Disneyland. When they were on Main Street, they heard the Dapper Dan singing and asked if they could join in.
Oh.
And Tommy Walker heard them and was so impressed, pulled them into his office and phoned Andy Williams. So whatever story you want to believe, it was because the Osmond Brothers were there at Disneyland in 1962 that they got their shot at being on the Andy Williams Show, and then, from there, nationwide attention.
Mm-hmm.
All because of Disneyland. It all began at Disneyland.
Most importantly, that would eventually lead to Donny Osmond making an acclaimed appearance in the music video for Weird Al Yankovic's White and Nerdy. So
Oh, no.
the pinnacle of his career. There.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I like about Donny Osmond is he has a good sense of humor about himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't feel that he needs to push as a star, that, the accomplishments that he's had and all that speak for themselves. So he does. And I've found that the bigger a star is, the less they feel they have to, promote themselves.
They have more secure.
Well, I was. Yeah.
They feel more secure, and he certainly, if you ever see that music video, there's even a video on YouTube that's his whole part, because of course they only use portions of what he does in the video because there's a lot of different cuts, but you can see what he originally did for the whole song, and it's pretty funny. And of course Marie Osmond ended up she'd sell her dolls at Disneyland.
Oh, yes.
And I think she was also in the Children's Miracle Network telethons. I could be wrong about that.
Yes, she was. You're right.
Those were held at Disneyland,
Mm-hmm.
So there's a Disney connection there to the Osmonds. Yeah.
Well, Donny Osmond said he knew he had made it when he did the singing voice in Mulan, and his kids told him, "Yes, that's something. That's really something." So all this other stuff was nothing. But being the singing voice of the male romantic lead there, that was
and
that,
how could
that was
you not
it.
use him? He's such an accomplished Chinese American actor.
Yeah, you couldn't get away with that these days. There's lots of things you could not get away with these days. I don't think people realize that the singing voice for Jasmine and for Mulan was actually Filipina.
Oh.
And once upon a time, it's like, well, you're an actor, you should be able to play anything.
Yeah.
Nowadays, not so much. It's a different world. And speaking of a different world, Disneyland had a special something for Easter Sunday that was so popular that they continued having it there every Easter through '67. And it wasn't the Easter parade. It was La Coquette. And I know right now there are listeners and maybe even the two hosts of this show who are scratching their head and going, if we're quiet long enough, Jim is in love with the sound of his own voice. He'll tell us what that is. Okay. A giant hot air balloon, and it was from the 1956 film Around the World in 80 Days. It lifted off from the hub and it got to an altitude of about 2,000 feet and then landed 45 minutes later in an orange grove about 10 miles away. And it was built by Goodyear originally for the U.S. Navy to be used during World War II for the training of blimp pilots, if you can believe that. And for the movie, the balloon was painted silver with various mythological figures to evoke a sort of a Jules Verne type of aesthetic. And my gosh, people were so excited to see it take off from the hub and go flying through the air. And as I said, so it made an annual appearance every Easter through 1967. A simpler time in 62. Time in 62. Yeah. But again, I like seeing hot air balloons. I don't think I would want to go on one.
No.
But I like seeing them go up. I'm glad they're colorful. I'm glad that Disney has had other balloons, over the years, but not to my taste. Not to my taste.
No, you wouldn't get me in one of those ever. No, thank you. Yeah.
Well, and I find that the older I get, the fewer things I want to do. Mm-hmm. Even if there was an attractive young woman who said, I'll go out on a date with you if we go bungee jumping first. No, I think there's another young woman out there somewhere who doesn't want to go bungee jumping. That's okay with me. Yeah. As I said, back in 62, I was agile and I was fearless. Now all it takes is for me to step off a curb wrong, and my whole body chemistry is shook up for the rest of the day. So no use doing any of that. Now, the thing with Disneyland, too, is that things were constantly changing. So even though something might remain, there were changes that were made to it. And of course, the icon of Tomorrowland was the Moonliner rocket, is 72 feet tall, 80 feet with the legs. And supposedly it was 1/3 the size of what an actual rocket might be, and even then I think that's way too small, especially when you take a look at the rockets we have now. But what happened is it was sponsored by TWA, and Howard Hughes sold his interest in TWA, and the company decided to end its sponsorship of the Tomorrowland attraction because that was only a local advertisement, and they wanted to do national advertising. I think they were short-sighted. Yeah. But they said, well, it's really only advertising people who are coming to Disneyland, which is just a local, and we want to be, national and international. And so the sponsorship shifted to McDonnell Douglas. And, of course, when you take over something, you want to put your imprint on it. So, of course, they changed the signs. They changed the uniforms of the attendants. They changed the briefing film to also include, images of Douglas achievements and all of this and new speakers. But the one major change they made, which had John Hench seeing red, is they repainted the Moonliner. Hench had put in these red and white stripes. So and again, they also sort of narrowed towards the top, so the rocket looked much larger than it actually was. McDonnell Douglas came in, got rid of all those stripes, and printed vertical blue ones. So now you've got this little stumpy rocket ship there, And of course, this was connected to the Rocket to the Moon attraction, where guests entered a double hemisphere building, and they were supposedly boarding the Star of Polaris spaceship, piloted by Captain Collins. And you went into this three-tiered circular theater that was meant to be the passenger compartment, and down at the bottom was a scanner screen, and up at the top was a scanner screen. So they were like portholes, but you could see where you were coming from and where you were going, basically. And the seats vibrated, and there were air jacks under the seats, so it would lift you up. And now when you hit zero gravity, it fell out from beneath you, so you know, your little rump, you know, hit the bottom of the seat. And of course, again, that's something that you probably couldn't get away with in Disneyland these days, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's like, oh my gosh. But, and that was a big thing because people were, and remember in those days, the word astronaut had not yet been coined. So if you were going to space, you were a spaceman. You know? So
right.
interesting time to live through, you know, and
yeah.
Then when they changed it to Flight to the Moon, you know, they talked with NASA and all that, but NASA withheld information. So 2 years after Flight to the Moon opened, you know, with all of these new innovations and changes to the film and all of that, that's when the landing on the moon took place. And NASA had not shared what the moon rover was going to look like, or some of those other things. So Disney was not too happy.
NASA, you know, NASA's a military operation. They're not, you know, they keep being a military operation. They would keep certain things under wraps. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know. It still didn't make Disney happy, but that's okay. The biggest change, of course, happened in Adventureland. You know, we already talked about the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse, and Walt was starting to go around, and I'm going to patch up, you know, one land at a time type thing. You know, because they didn't look like, you know, what I wanted them to look like in 1955, you know. And he had tried to patch up Tomorrowland, you know, in 59 with the first 3 e-ticket attractions, you know, the monorail and the Matterhorn and the submarine voyage. But that still was pretty much just Band-Aids as opposed to, you know, transforming the entire space. And so the next place he had his sights set on was Adventureland. And Adventureland was going to be part of a $7 million expansion. Now, this was back in the days when $1 million actually meant something. You know, today everybody seems to be a millionaire, even if it's just with Bitcoin. You know, but it's like in those days, $1 million, that's a lot of money there. You know, so Walt was making plans, you know, to extend the Jungle Cruise. So they already announced that coming, it wasn't installed in 62, but was advertised, Mark Davis's Elephant Bathing Pool, you know. And it's okay to take pictures because they're wearing their trunks. And they, in 62, they expanded the river. So it was now almost 2,000 feet there, you know. And they advertised it as this is... previously undiscovered territory in the jungle that is now being opened up. And there was a 2-story boathouse, and they removed it and rebuilt it as a single-story structure because they didn't want people up on the 2nd story actually looking into the Jungle Cruise and seeing what was going on. That was a big fascination, in the early days, and also helped alleviate boredom, in line. But now they're down to a single story. And besides the treehouse, they were going to put in the largest shooting gallery in Disneyland and a section of shops and stores and the Tahitian Terrace, which was a long-time favorite of mine. And until Blue Bayou opened, it was considered the fanciest restaurant on Disneyland property. And actually, it wasn't necessarily a new restaurant. It was taking part of an old restaurant and reformatting. The Plaza Pavilion extended into Adventureland, and they rethemed that area as the Pavilion Lanai. So it was sort of Hawaiian themed because you could look out and you could see the Jungle Cruise attraction. But Stouffer's really wanted to be the, sponsor of Disneyland restaurants. So, they made that huge push. And so what they did is they transformed that whole section so that the food and entertainment reflected the islands of Polynesia. And for those who don't know what those islands are, it's like Tahiti, Samoa, Hawaii. That's all part of what is considered Polynesia. So there was an outdoor seating area with tables and chairs, and then right behind that on an upper level was another section with tables and chairs, and they were all facing towards the stage, and you were served, unlike other Disney places at the time, Disneyland places at the time, you were served by waiters and waitresses, and unlike other restaurants, there were set times to dine because of the show schedule. It was approximately a 30-minute experience with a live band providing, the Polynesian rhythms. And as I said, originally it was sponsored by Stouffer's, but I think many of the people listening to this podcast may know it from the time when it was taken over by Kikkoman. During construction on the stage, there was this huge concrete tree, and Walt felt the tree was too short, so he wanted it, higher, and they all looked at him like he was insane because it's already been built, for crying out loud. And Walt said, no, you're thinking of it as a real tree. What we need to do is just cut it in half and add a section of concrete in the center, and that's what they did. And then over to the side was this waterfall and these rocky steps, and that's where the performers were going to come through. And Walt turned to Admiral Joe Fowler, and he says, I want that curtain of water to part and then close again after the performers come through. And Fowler immediately replied, can do. And that's how he earned that famous nickname, Can Do Fowler. It came from that moment. And so what would happen is you'd be seated, and you would order with the waiters and waitresses, and my gosh, the menu was considered exotic for typical American taste at the time. So barbecued pineapple ribs, skewered chicken with soy sauce, broiled teriyaki steak. All of this just sounded pretty. They had shrimp, coconut shrimp. They also had coconut ice cream. But the highlight for a lot of people was the non-alcoholic Planter's Punch Tahitian. It was a blend of all the exotic fresh fruits of the island in a tall, frosted, cylindrical glass with a faux flower in it that you could take home as a memento. And as I recall, it tastes an awful lot like fruit punch, basically.
Yeah.
But what would happen is you would place your order. The show would start where the water curtain would open. The footlights were actually flames from the burning water in front of the waterfall. And you had sarong-clad natives appear, and there were all sorts of acts. There was the barefoot fire walk. There was a thrilling fire dance. There was the traditional grass-skirted hula. And one of the funny things, of course, is they would bring up men from the audience and put a little plastic skirt on them, to do a hula lesson. And I know this for a fact because my dad was called up to do it, and fortunately he had a good sense of humor and really got into it. But some of the men up there, it was like, holy cow, should this person be trusted with power tools? They have no coordination. They don't seem to know what they're doing. And as I said, Stouffer's had sponsored Plaza Pavilion, so now the Tahitian Terrace, and then later French Market. They were supposed to sponsor the Enchanted Tiki Room. And when we get to 1963, we can get more into that, but it was supposed to be a Stouffer's restaurant, and it was advertised as a Stouffer's restaurant. And then when Walt decided, there's just not enough capacity in here, and we'll just go with it as an attraction, he had to do an awful lot of sweet talking to convince them that, no, the Tahitian Terrace is going to be the star jewel. It's going to be the diamond. This is what you're going to want to do, and I'm behind you all the way for this to happen. And so for a long while, when you exited the Tiki Room, right there was the Tahitian Terrace, and then it later became Aladdin's Oasis, which just sort of bombed badly. And now it's back to being a tropical hideaway. But, the Tahitian Terrace, for those of us in 1962 who were literally clueless about the world, this was really something. Ooh, ah, but again, it was pricey, so you couldn't do that all the time. But I went. Mom and Dad took us there 2 or 3 times, and I can't remember what I ate because I was a pretty finicky kid when it came to eating, and in those days there was no chicken nuggets or stuff like that. But apparently I got something, a salad or something that, I know I got the Tahitian punch. Boy, I remember the Tahitian punch. And I'm surprised Disney doesn't decide to bring that back for some celebration. There were a lot of great menu offerings in Disneyland over the years that just, when New Orleans Square opened, the thing I was crazy about, besides the Monte Cristo sandwich and Blue Bayou, was that little fast food window where you could get mint julep. It was non-alcoholic, and it I think the only thing mint about it was a sprig of mint they put on the top. I think it was basically lemonade with some food coloring and maybe some grenadine. I don't know. And but boy, I felt real grown up getting that. Now, in Adventureland, I mentioned that they had the largest of the 3 shooting galleries at Disneyland, and I think shooting galleries have probably fallen out of favor, these days, but they were popular in '62. There was one in the Penny Arcade that Walt eventually removed because he felt it was too noisy and the noise was spilling out into Main Street. And of course, there was the one in Frontierland where you picked up a rifle just like Davy Crockett's rifle, and in Adventureland, these were elephant guns. They were air rifles. There were 16 of them. Sam McKim did all the artwork for this particular shooting gallery, and of course, you shot the typical moving targets like lions and tigers and elephants and rhinos and hippos and snakes and apes. Wow. You shot at apes. Wow. And you shot at tikis. And of course you shot at natives.
Yeah.
That wouldn't fly today.
No.
The proscenium was framed with this cut plywood green jungle foliage, and you were standing on this other side, and there was this body of water, so it was like you were shooting across a lake, at these things. An attendant would come. This cost a C coupon, which in those days was 25 cents. And an attendant would come with a plastic tube to load each rifle. And they fired .22 caliber lead pellets, which are still pretty dangerous and powerful. And but there was no gunpowder charge at all. These were the energy from the air compressor. That was what was used for the propellant. And as I said, 16 guns, so you could have 16 guests at a time. And Disney did a survey that the average shooting time for a guest was roughly about 56 seconds. So that's 1 minute. So in 1 minute, most kids and all cleaned out their rifle. And so they had to use another C ticket or 25 cents to get reloaded, or goodbye, kid, the next person's waiting. And in 1 year, it was estimated that 2 million lead pellets were shot at these targets. And some of them actually ricocheted off towards guests who were standing behind the shooters, and there were severe dings on the targets and the surrounding artwork, because some people weren't hitting the targets, they were hitting everything but the target. And so every night, it took roughly 40 gallons of paint to repaint everything that was dinged up. And it took a full 8 hours to do the repainting. The painters had a special trailer that they built for the shooting gallery that had paint buckets on the side and special rollers and brushes. And roughly 8 times a year, the paint had built up so much that the surfaces had to be burned clean right down to the original metal, and then repainted. And they used a vinyl paint for this, and of course some of the targets had some movement. So when you were bringing a new person on the crew to do this, you would try to set it up so if he was doing something like, if he was starting to paint the giraffe's eyes would move, and the person would be scared to death, And in a way, the painters had to have some artistic background, because some of the things were, even the foliage and all that was really detailed and elaborate. The U.S. government began regulating lead exposure, and companies stopped manufacturing the ammunition used at galleries, and most guns at shooting galleries were replaced with infrared beams of light, rather than pellets. But in 62, you didn't worry about, liability suits. You just, I'm going to shoot that native.
Oh,
Good
wow.
for you. Great white hunter.
Wow.
And then the final thing that was for Adventureland in 62 was the Adventureland Bazaar. Imagineer Rolly Crump, who's a terrific person, and I'm glad, he got his memories in print. It's sort of a cute story.
Oh,
But even then, knowing Rolly, he left out a lot of things. One time after Charlie Ridgway had released his book, and Charlie Ridgway was in charge of publicity and marketing at Disneyland and later at Walt Disney World, I said, Charlie, you've told me stories that aren't in the book. You need to write another book. He said, oh, it's too much work. And I said, and you could call it Things I Forgot to Remember.
yeah.
And he never got around to it. But, all of these things start disappearing. So that's why I'm glad you guys are saving some of this stuff and sharing it with your listeners, and hope they are sharing it with others. But Imagineer Rolly Crump, his first opportunity at an Imagineering art director was on the Adventureland Bazaar. He was given a budget of $38,000. That's not much, right? When you're spending $7 million for the whole rehab of Adventureland, here's $38,000. Make this work. And so there's this real retail space covering about 3,000 square feet. And so, he was really clever. He went to Disney's Boneyard, where they had unused props or things that had been pulled out from places. So he used some of the old ticket booths as cash register stations, but, reformatted it into that Polynesian style. He used mirrors on the wall to make the space look larger. Just like they did later with the mile-long bar in Frontierland. He used columns from the Chicken Plantation restaurant that was being torn down. And the Chicken Plantation restaurant was so popular that in the construction wall, they actually had to cut a square, and for a while, they were serving chicken through that square to guests who were upset that there was no Chicken Plantation restaurant. And so he bought some things, he built some things, and he created this really, immersive location that inspired so many other Imagineers. I talked with some Imagineers who even today go, what Rolly did with that space and all that. And so it comes down to the fact that you don't need money, you need imagination, and you need some persistence. And this is what can happen. So did you guys experience any of these things at Disneyland, the Tahitian Terrace or the shooting gallery? Or
I remember the Tahitian Terrace fondly. The shooting gallery, I don't really remember it too much before it went to the Frontierland one went electronic.
Right.
So yeah.
No, I don't remember those at all. I mean, I remember them, but I didn't go to Tahitian Terrace to eat.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was pricey, but again, maybe some of your listeners here, when they comment on the podcast, might bring back some of their memories.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe they stole a menu.
Be worth some money. Trying to,
and of course, Dixieland at Disneyland was going on that year too, in September. That was very popular for years. I don't think that there's a place or an event at Disneyland anymore that showcases Dixieland jazz. you know.
No.
But at one time that was part of the DNA of Disneyland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think you've covered. I have a bunch of things on my notes here. I think you covered most of it. There's a few little things, but
did I mention the candlelight processional narrator?
No.
You know who it was?
Nope.
Dennis Morgan. And Dennis Morgan was a very popular actor and a singer, and most people don't remember him at all these days. He actually did. If you're going to look up Dennis Morgan, you should probably look up the buddy movies he made with Jack Oakey. You know, because they were looking. The studio was looking to develop, a new comedy team. You know, like Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello or whatever. And they were actually quite funny, but it just didn't click. You know, sometimes you can't capture lightning in a bottle. You know, there's not the chemistry there.
Right.
And Candlelight Processional, only one night. So, but yeah, boy. And I remember going to Disneyland in the summer, so I remember it being sunshiny and a little warm, at times. But thank you so much for giving me this chance to go back in time and bring up some memories, especially of my mom and dad, let alone Disneyland. And, there was just really nothing like it. You know, we went to other places. You know, Mom and Dad took us to Marineland. We went to Knott's Berry Farm. And what I was excited about at Knott's Berry Farm was in the saloon, you could get sarsaparilla. I had never had sarsaparilla before. I never saw it any of the other places, but I was a big fan of cowboy movies. And in the cowboy movies, somebody would always come up to the bar, and if you didn't want alcohol, he ordered sarsaparilla. Actually, what it is it's root beer, but without all the sugar. And boy, I guess I could go on to Amazon now and order sarsaparilla. You can go on to Amazon or eBay and order just about anything in the world now. I'm always surprised at what people find there. You know, back in my day, Billy, you had to actually go to a store. You know, if there was one in your neighborhood. Yeah, I'm that old. You know, and there are mornings I get up and I feel it. And again, for those people who are listening, who like hearing these episodes where we focus on one particular year, coming out in May is my latest book, Disneyland Historical Highlights, the Walt and Roy years, 1954 to 1972, and each chapter is devoted to just 1 year in the life of Disneyland. So there is a chapter devoted to 1962. Now, because I love you guys, I shared some additional things that are not in the book, but some of the major stuff, like about the tree house and Meet Me at Disneyland and all that is in the book. And I realized that I was just fascinated by those years when Walt and Roy were in charge, and when they passed away, it was like a light, went out. It was still Disneyland, but it was not my Disneyland. So I wrote this book primarily for myself, and I was inspired to write this book by your two charming and knowledgeable co-hosts of this podcast. And in fact, I was so inspired that I dedicated the book to them, and they deserve that and so much more. But if you're a fan of early Disneyland, yeah, you can buy me a bottle of sarsaparilla. What's the matter with you, you cheap guys? So anyway, in May, look for Disneyland Historical Highlights by Jim Korkis. It'll be on Amazon along with a lot of other books I wrote, and coming out this fall, a book that I am finishing up even as we speak. I'm playing hooky doing this podcast, even though I'm supposed to be writing this book. Off to Neverland, 70 years of Disney's Peter Pan. And so Disney's Peter Pan celebrates its 70th anniversary in 2023. My book will be out this fall, so you can enjoy it. It covers not only the making of the Disney film, it talks about the silent movie, it talks about Walt when he was an elementary school student at Benton Grammar School, playing Peter Pan, in his own words, playing Peter Pan in the school play, and why he thought he was a better Peter Pan than Maude Adams on Broadway. There's chapters about the Tinkerbell peanut butter commercials. There's chapters about Peter Pan in the theme parks. There's a chapter about Jake and the Neverland Pirates. There's a chapter about Return to Neverland, a chapter about the Tinkerbell fairy films. There's even a short chapter about the live-action Peter Pan that Disney has filmed that's coming out on Disney Plus this year. I don't have a lot of high hopes for it, but again, I'm one of those ones who really dislike the fact that they did Lady and the Tramp with live-action dogs. But it may be to your taste. Your mileage may vary. So that'll be coming out in the fall. But in May, by golly, Disneyland Historical Highlights, and you'll be up to date on these on Disneyland. And those of you who've been furiously scribbling notes while we've been talking, you'll have the real stuff right there for you. Thank you for letting me promote my books.
Yeah, wow. We always recommend your books to people. We get people that ask, what Disney book should we get? We always say Jim Korkis, anything in his library of books.
And they don't come after you with Rotten Tomatoes or things, huh?
No, not yet. No, but thank you so much, Jim. I always appreciate you coming on, and it's always a joy to hear your information.
Always a joy to be on here with you guys. It's a lot of fun. It always lifts my spirits, and hope you'll invite me, back again. I'm full of Disneyland history. Actually, I'm full of something. I think it's Disneyland history. It could just be gas, but it's always a joy because I don't just do these things off the top of my head. I spend at least a good 2 weeks doing research and editing and verifying and all of that because I want the most accurate information to be out there. That's why I had all those different stories about how the Osmonds were discovered. All we can say for sure was because they were performing at Disneyland in '62. That's why they were discovered. But the specifics, because there's all these stories out there. And, Disneyland is just something amazing. It's something unique. It's something, even with all of the changes Disneyland has gone through, even with all the upselling, when you step into the park, there's something about it that's just magical and healing. Even though Walt left the park, decades ago, there's still something about his park that deserves attention and deserves discussion. Again,
Agreed.
Thank you both very much. Thank you, listeners, for putting up with this, and leave comments, and maybe we'll be seeing each other again soon.
Sounds
if I
good.
don't see you in the future, I'll see you in the pasture.
Okay, wow. Whew.
Oh boy.
That was great. That was
Thank you. If you've still made it, and I don't understand why you wouldn't, because that was captivating, but I realize it's a long show. Congratulations. Here we are. We are reaching the finish line. So thank you for sticking with us.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you again to Jim Korkis for coming on. Really appreciate it. Always love him on our show. We don't have any new reviews this week to read, so if you've been listening to our show for more than one episode and you enjoy it, and you listen through Apple Podcasts, or even if you don't listen through that, just go on there real quick and leave a review. We'd really appreciate it. We'll read it on the show. Remember, check out our website. We got a bunch of stuff with the upcoming events and our books and t-shirts and social media. And our show notes to each of our episodes are on there with the current event links that Ken talks about. So check all that out at thesweetspot.com. We hope to see everyone at Disneyana May 15th. Oops, excuse me. Wow. May 15th.
Yes.
And also try to follow me on Instagram, The Sweet Spot, and I'll have some buttons on hand there. If you don't make it to Disneyland, I'll be at Disneyland on the 14th. So, all right. Whew. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk with you next time.